Hey everybody, it's Birdie here from My Favorite Quilt Store, and we're going to do a short demo for you. We're going to work on a little zippy bag. This is a sample that I made at home. They're super cute, and you can buy the whole panel and you got like 4 little ones and 8 big ones, and we're going to basically show you how to put the zipper in this thing. So let's get into it. First thing that the instructions tell you to do, and I don't have a whole panel here, but you got to work on they have little tabs on the side like this one right here. So you just fold it in half long ways. I always backstitch on usually everything when I'm not doing actual quilting. I just think it's a good habit to get into. So taking my pin out because I know some of you don't like it when I run over them. So okay, I got my 1/4 inch seam done, and I have a safety pin. This is a little bit bigger than the one I have at home, and that's what I use just to turn these inside out. So I'll come in here, pin it, and then stick my pin in and try and turn the wrong side. Put the wrong side on the inside, the right side on the out. So I just run it through. Now, if you buy this panel and make these zippy bags, you don't have to do the tabs if you don't want to, but I just think they're kind of cute. So here's, I'll press it, but then it gets folded over like this, and we'll insert it into the side of the seam. So what I need to do now is go to the ironing board, and we'll iron everything ready to put the zipper in. So this is what I'm doing according to the instructions. This is where we're going to add our zipper. So I just press it under, and it gives you a solid line there, but I always go a little bit further just in case. And we're going to be making a small bag, so I've got to do the same thing on this side. Okay, so now we're ready to go to the sewing machine and put that zipper in. Okay, so what I did at the ironing board is I ironed under on the edge where the zipper goes 1/4 inch here and here on the part that gets sewn to it. You can, when you buy the panel, you get, like I said, you get 8 bags altogether. You get 4 of the small ones and 4 of the big ones. And then you have the option of buying this packet of zippers. And there's 2 different colorways. We've got this packet and another one that's got more kind of like fall colors, but oh, it's right here. Yeah, fall colors, see? And it's actually a pretty good buy. It doesn't tell me how wide these are. But anyways, you get 8 zippers, and they're like $15. So they're like $2 a zipper. And these are the double ones. What I mean by that, they have the double thing. They open up this way and that way, both ways and stuff, and super easy to install. But we also sell them individually as well. And these are all Lori Holt, you know, she's the designer of these bags and everything. So we have these in a variety of colors on the website. And this one happens to be a 22-inch zipper. I don't remember how wide the larger bags are, but you know, you're cutting out your panel and everything. And these zippers, you wind up cutting them off for the smaller bags, and you cut some off for the larger bags. So this 8-pack of zippers is everything that you need to go along with the panel. We're going to try a different zipper. We also sell zippers, like I guess we call mystery bag of zippers. They're $8 for 6 different zippers. And I think at one point we were selling some of these individually. I'm not positive, but they're not the metal teeth, and that's the one thing that I like about them. They're like nylon or plastic or whatever. And same with this one. This has got a bigger handle on it, but it's red, and it's only a zipper one way. But that's what we're going to use to demo the bag today. So okay. I'm using this zipper, and we're going to make this small bag. So I've got to line it up, and you have to remember you're going to when you sew the bag around, you're going to have a 1/4 inch seam here. So I want to get this head of my zipper as close to that 1/4 inch mark as I can. So I'm going to extend my zipper, make it a little bit longer. And you have an option of how close you get it to the zipper. I don't like to put it any closer than where the head of this zipper is. I don't want it to be able to get caught in there. So I don't line it up right next to the teeth. I have a little bit of space in there. So I know where this is going to tell me. I'm going to start right about here, maybe a 1/4 inch from the edge of that zipper. So to make it easier, I'm going to unzip my zipper. And like I said, I don't use any pins. I just guide this as I go, and I sew slow. And again, since I'm going to be cutting that off, I don't really even backstitch on this because I'll start sewing on that zipper where it's just the zipper itself, and that'll lock my stitches in. So, and plus it'll be encased in a seam. So I'm going to, my machine doesn't like me. Okay, so we're going to put this down, and I can place this to where the edge of my zipper foot is lining up with the edge of my fabric. So if you can kind of see how far I've got it away from the teeth on the zipper, kind of gives you a good idea. You can see what I'm saying, because I don't want that head to get caught when I'm opening and closing. And so I'm using I'm watching where I'm sewing and making sure that I line this up and try and stay with that nice little seam allowance there, if you want to call it that. I don't want to get too far away from that edge. Okay, and then I'm going to raise my presser foot, but my needle is in the down position so my fabric won't move. So I'm going to do that. So now I can zip that zipper, and then I can finish sewing the rest. And that's I think one of the things that people get confused about when you're sewing a zipper, that the head always gets in the way, but you start sewing and then you zip it up and it's out of the way and you don't have to worry about it. So now we just have to see how close I can come to keeping this straight. I've seen people do it where they use like a fusible tape they put in there, like a double-sided tape, to tape it in place before they sew it. If you feel more comfortable doing that, I would rather see you do that than put pins in it, because this zipper, you know, it's raised some, so it would get in the way of the pins as far as I'm concerned, because I always put my pins in perpendicular to the seam that I'm sewing. And I know some people put them parallel to the seam. I did not learn that way when I was a little girl learning to sew. So, and we're just going to sew nice and slow. And I'm going to sew past the edge of the the edge of the fabric, and that'll lock everything in for me. So I'm going to cut my thread there. One side of the zipper in. So again, I'm going to start with the other side. So I'm going to unzip this a little bit, and I'm going to take the other edge that I have. Remember, I folded that edge under at the ironing board. And what you want to do is kind of match where you started on the other side. So right about there looks good. Okay, and I don't want it that close to my fabric. Let's see. I was sewing here. I had my foot to the far side and my needle over here, and you can tell I want to show you on this zipper foot. It's got a place here for my needle to come, and now I'm going to move it over to here because I'm going to be sewing the other side of the zipper on. Okay, so I've got my foot in place. It's on my machine again. At least it should be. There, now it clicked on. So now I've got to take my needle and I've got to move it to the other side. So I'm gonna, oh, there we go. Okay, that looks good to me. I might have gone a little too far, so I always put my needle down. I'm gonna go over just one more. Okay. Okay, so we're ready. And here's the other half of where we're going to be putting the zipper, the other half that connects the front to make the bag of the front completely whole again. So I've got to make sure I get it as close as I did on the other side. So I think I like that. And I'm going to come over here, put my presser foot. I don't know if I've got that completely lined. There we go. That's the trickiest part. And that's why I like using these zippers, because it always stays connected, where because you'll start sewing with your zipper here and you'll start over here, and sew, and your edges are even. That's the one thing when you have this zipper that's separated, it makes it a little bit harder, but not much. So I can start sewing, and since I wasn't sure if I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of back stitches as well. Okay, so now all I've got to do is take my time and do the stitching all the way down. And again, I stitched so far and go a little bit farther. And I'm going to make sure my needle's in the down position. I have my machine programmed to where when I stop sewing, my needle always stays down inside my fabric. I can lift my presser foot, then I can come back here and I can zip up the zipper, get that head of the zipper out of my way, and then I just have to finish sewing it all the way down. And there, I sewed past it. So now we know that one is done. Got that zipper installed on this bag. So the next thing you're going to do when you put these bags together, remember we made our little tab. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to, you can put it on the left side of the bag, you can put it on the right side of the bag. I like to put it for some reason on the left side of the bag, and I actually trim it down a little bit because I don't think it needs to be that big. So I'm cutting off not quite like maybe a quarter of an inch off, because, and I pin it in place here because I'm going to put it in my seam allowance on the left side of my bag, and I don't put it right next to the zipper. I go down a little bit, so I'm down about maybe not quite an inch from the edge of the zipper. So, and I put 2 pins in it just to keep it in place. Okay, so the next thing you do, now you got to put these bags, it's all one piece, so this flips up and you match your raw edges up there. And then I like to sew from this side because it just makes it easier because I can see that zipper better. And I do pin this, so I'm going to pin this all the way around. Put right sides together. They give you a little bit of leeway here. This should be the bottom of the bag right here. And they do that because they don't know how much is going to get turned under, so it gives you some play. So what I do is I pin it all the way around, and I got my tab here, and then I'll start over here, and I'll start sewing from here and go all the way around. And believe it or not, you can actually sew over these zippers, especially these ones. You can see the teeth are much smaller on that, but I should be able to sew over this zipper. And I come around and I pivot on the corners, I come back, and then when I get down here, after going down here, I'll stop about 1 or 2 stitches before that line, and I'll sew all the way across as well. And then I just wind up trimming that fold out. And then once I've got it, and you're sewing your tag in, and then once you've got that all done, I clip my corners, you know, a little diagonal, but you don't want to clip too far. You don't want to clip into the seam because that corner will pop out. But then you turn it inside out and give it a good press. And it looks like this. And you poke those corners out and everything. And then I give it a really good press to make sure I've got a solid press there. And what I've done before, like the first time I make it, I actually apply a little bit of starch. And you flip it out. When you're using these zippers here, what I do is I leave them open about halfway. I'll open it up to about here and here, and that way you have a place to turn. So what I would have to do with this kind of a zipper is leave about a section like that open. That's going to, see how I pinned it first before I did that? So I'm gonna, that'll, you know how when you sew right sides together and you've got to turn it out, you've got to leave an opening to turn. The zipper is actually going to be opening to turn so you can turn it inside out. And then you'll flip that. When you turn it inside out, that tag will pop out, so it's here on the left side of your thing. And then you just, but before you turn it, the pattern recommends that after you sew everything, you zigzag around the edges to just enclose all the raw edges. And so that's really easy to do as well. And then you give it a good press, and you wind up with a really cute little bag like this. Now the bigger ones, I've used them as travel bags. Like if I'm packing and going away for the weekend, I can actually fit a pair of my shoes inside there and then put it in my piece of luggage that I'm carrying, my overnight bag or whatever. But I carry this, like this bag I carry in my purse for all my little odds and ends. What do I have? I have like my like toenail clippers and a little emery board. Oh, and I also carry my measuring tape. I never leave home without a measuring tape. I don't know how many of our listeners carry a measuring tape with them all the time, but you never know when you're going to need one if you stop in at a fabric store or whatever. But sometimes I'll have lip gloss or chapstick in here. Anything, like even like my little pill box I'll put in here that I don't want floating around in the bottom of my purse. I'm just trying to give you some ideas of how you can use these cute little bags, but I just think they're adorable. I think they would make great gifts. But that's how simple they are. And like I said, if you buy the panel and zippers, you wind up with 4 large ones and 4 of the small ones, and they're really cute little gifts. Okay, and if you like our video that we just made, make sure you like it and comment, and you can subscribe to our videos as well. So happy sewing. I hope you have fun.